The royal flagship moved through the darkness of space like a silver blade cutting through black water. The ship was called the Eternal Throne, and it belonged to the most powerful woman in 3 galaxies. Empress Sorrel stood at the observation window, watching the distant stars pass by. Her skin was pale blue, almost like moonlight, and her eyes were the color of deep purple storms. 2 small antennae rose from her forehead, and they moved slightly when she was thinking hard about something. She was thinking hard now. Behind her, in a room that no one except her most trusted servants knew about, her daughter was sleeping. Princess Lyra was 16 years old, and she had never left the palace walls. Not once, not ever, until today. Sorrel turned away from the window and walked through the silent corridors of her ship. Guards stood at every door, but they did not look at her. They knew better than to meet her eyes. She was the Empress, and the Empress was not to be stared at like some common person. She reached a door at the end of a hidden hallway. She placed her hand on the scanner, and the door slid open without a sound. Inside, the room was warm and filled with soft blue light. Medical machines hummed quietly in the corners, and in the center, on a bed that floated above the floor, lay her daughter. Lyra was beautiful. She had the same pale blue skin as her mother, the same purple eyes, but her legs were thin and twisted beneath the blanket. They had never worked properly. From the day she was born, Lyra could not walk. She could not stand. She could not run or dance or do any of the things that other children did without thinking. In the Valorian Empire, this was considered the worst kind of shame. Sorrel sat down beside her daughter's bed and watched her sleep. In the old laws, written thousands of years ago, it said that physical weakness in the royal bloodline was a curse from the gods. It meant the family had done something wrong. It meant they were unworthy of power. Sorrel knew this was foolish. She knew it was cruel and stupid and wrong. But she also knew that her enemies would use any weapon against her, and her daughter's condition was the sharpest weapon of all. So she had hidden Lyra. For 16 years, the galaxy believed that the Empress had no children. The princess lived in secret rooms, taught by machines, cared for by servants who were sworn to silence. She had never felt the sun on her face. She had never talked to anyone her own age. She had never been anywhere at all. Until now. Sorrel was traveling to Meridian 7, a great space station where leaders from many worlds came together to talk and make deals. It was an important trip. She could not miss it. But for the first time, she could not bear to leave her daughter behind. So she had brought Lyra with her, hidden in this secret room, known only to a handful of people. Lyra's eyes opened slowly. When she saw her mother, she smiled. It was a small smile, tired and gentle. "Are we there yet?" Lyra asked. Her voice was soft. "Almost," Sorrel said. "A few more hours." Lyra tried to sit up, and Sorrel helped her, arranging pillows behind her back. The princess looked at the small window in the corner of the room, where she could see the stars moving past. "Mother," Lyra said, "may I ask you something?" "Of course." "When we arrive at the station, can I see it? Just a little bit. I have read so much about these places, but I have never seen one with my own eyes." Sorrel felt her heart grow heavy. She wanted to say yes. She wanted to give her daughter everything. But the risk was so great. If anyone saw Lyra, if anyone found out about her condition, everything could fall apart. "It is too dangerous," Sorrel said quietly. Lyra nodded. She did not argue. She never argued. She had learned long ago that her life was not like other lives. She had learned to accept her cage. But something in her eyes dimmed a little, and Sorrel felt it like a knife in her chest. "Perhaps," the Empress said slowly, "perhaps there is one thing we could do." Lyra looked up, and for a moment her eyes were bright again. "There is a restaurant on the station," Sorrel continued. "It is called the Celestial Terrace. It is famous for its privacy. Important people go there when they do not want to be seen. I could book the entire place. We could have dinner there, just the two of us. You could see a little bit of the station just for one evening." Lyra's face transformed with joy. It was like watching the sun rise. "Really," she whispered, "you would do that for me?" "I would do anything for you," Sorrel said, and she meant it. Even though she was cold to the rest of the galaxy, even though she was feared and respected and obeyed by billions of beings, she was still a mother, and mothers do impossible things for their children. She called for her high commander, a tall Valorian soldier named Veth. He had served her for 20 years. He was loyal, but he was also traditional. He believed in the old ways, the old laws. When Sorrel told him her plan, his face grew dark. "This is unwise, Your Majesty," Veth said. "The princess should remain hidden. If anyone sees her condition, it will create problems." "No one will see her," Sorrel replied. "I will book the entire restaurant. All staff will be removed. We will be alone." Veth did not look convinced, but he bowed his head. He knew better than to argue with the Empress. They arrived at Meridian 7 as the station's artificial day was beginning. The station was enormous, a city floating in space. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds lived and worked there. Ships came and went like busy insects. Sorrel made the arrangements herself. She contacted the Celestial Terrace and demanded complete privacy. The owner was nervous but agreed immediately. No one refused the Empress of the Valorian Empire. That evening, Sorrel helped Lyra into her hovering mobility chair. It was a beautiful machine, made of silver and glass, but it was also a prison. Lyra had spent her whole life in chairs like this one. They traveled through private corridors, avoiding all the public areas. Veth walked ahead of them, checking every corner. Two silent guards followed behind. Finally, they reached the restaurant. The Celestial Terrace was beautiful. The walls were made of transparent crystal, and through them, Lyra could see the stars in all directions. The tables were covered with white cloth, and soft music played from somewhere she could not see. Lyra's eyes were wide with wonder. She had never seen anything like this. She had only read about such places in books and seen them in pictures, but pictures were nothing compared to reality. Sorrel watched her daughter's face and felt something warm grow in her chest. This was worth the risk. This moment of joy on her daughter's face was worth everything. They sat down at a table near the window. Veth stood by the door watching. Everything seemed perfect. Everything seemed safe. And then the door opened, and a young man walked in. He was human. Sorrel could tell immediately by his appearance. He had warm brown skin, dark eyes, and black hair that was slightly messy. He wore the uniform of a waiter, and he carried a small electronic pad in his hand. Sorrel's blood turned cold. "Who is this?" she demanded, looking at Veth. "I ordered all staff removed." The young man stopped walking. He looked at the Empress, then at the guards, then at the girl in the hovering chair. His eyes were wide with surprise, but he did not look afraid. "I am sorry," he said, bowing his head slightly. "There must have been a mistake in the schedule. My name is Park T-Ho. I am the waiter assigned to this floor tonight." "Leave immediately," Veth commanded, stepping forward. But T-Ho was not looking at the commander. He was looking at Lyra. The princess stared back at him, her purple eyes curious. She had never been this close to a human before. She had never been this close to anyone outside the palace. And for some reason she could not explain, she smiled at him. T-Ho smiled back. High Commander Veth moved toward the human waiter with murder in his eyes. In the Valorian Empire, common people did not look at royalty. They did not smile at princesses. They lowered their eyes and backed away like frightened animals. But this human was not backing away. He was standing there, holding his electronic pad, looking at Princess Lyra with a warm and friendly expression. "I said leave," Veth repeated, his voice sharp as broken glass. T-Ho turned to look at the commander. He was not stupid. He could see that these were important people. The tall, blue-skinned woman radiated power like heat from a fire. The guards wore armor that cost more than everything T-Ho had ever owned. He knew he should run away. But he also saw the young girl in the hovering chair. She was looking at him like he was the most interesting thing in the universe. No one had ever looked at him like that before. "I apologize for the confusion," Tiho said, bowing his head to the Empress. "But if you need a waiter tonight, I am very good at my job. I promise I will not cause any problems." Empress Sorrel opened her mouth to send him away. This was exactly what she had tried to prevent. A stranger had seen her daughter. A witness now existed. Everything was ruined. But then she heard a sound she had not heard in months. Lyra laughed. It was a small laugh, quiet and surprised, but it was real. Sorrel turned to look at her daughter. Lyra was covering her mouth with her hand, her purple eyes bright with amusement. "He is funny," Lyra said. "He is not afraid at all." Sorrel felt her heart crack just a little. When was the last time her daughter had laughed? When was the last time Lyra had shown interest in anything? "You find this human amusing?" Sorrel asked carefully. "I have never met a human before," Lyra said. "I have read about them. They are strange creatures. They live such short lives, but they do so many things. I always wondered what they were like in person." Tiho smiled at the princess again. "We are very strange," he agreed. "We eat when we are sad, we cry when we are happy, and we dance for no reason at all. Humans make no sense." Lyra laughed again, and this time it was louder. Sorrel made a decision. It was probably foolish. It was certainly risky, but she could not take this moment away from her daughter. "You may stay," she said to Tiho, "but you will speak to no one about what you see here tonight. Do you understand?" "Of course, Your Majesty," Tiho said, bowing deeply. Veth looked like he wanted to argue, but he kept his mouth shut. He moved back to his position by the door, his eyes never leaving the human. Tiho walked toward the table and Lyra watched every step he took. She had never seen a human walk before. It was different from how Valorians moved. Humans were shorter, softer, less graceful. But there was something warm about the way they carried themselves. "My name is Park Tiho," the waiter said, looking directly at Lyra. "What is your name?" Veth made an angry sound. "You do not speak to the princess directly. You do not ask her questions. You do not look at her." But Lyra raised her hand. "It is all right," she said. "I want to answer." She looked at Tiho. "My name is Lyra." "That is a beautiful name," Tiho said. "It sounds like music." "No one has ever told me that before," Lyra said softly. "Then no one has been paying attention." Sorrel watched this exchange with growing wonder. The human showed no fear, no hesitation. He talked to Lyra like she was a normal person, not a hidden shame, not a cursed child. He did not look at her hovering chair with pity or disgust. He simply looked at her. "Have you been to this restaurant before?" Tiho asked Lyra. Lyra shook her head. "I have never been to any restaurant before. This is my first time." Something changed in Tiho's face. For just a moment, sadness passed through his eyes like a shadow, but he hid it quickly behind his smile. "Then I will make sure this is the best dinner of your life," he said. "Let me tell you about our menu." He pulled up information on his pad, but he did not read from it like most waiters did. Instead, he described each dish like he was telling a story. "This one is called nebula soup," he said. "It is made from vegetables that grow on a planet where it is always nighttime. The soup glows in the dark, and it tastes like stars would taste if stars had a flavor, bright and hot and full of wonder." Lyra leaned forward in her chair, her eyes wide. "Really?" "I promise. And this one is called cloud fish. It comes from an ocean that floats in the sky on a moon near here. The fish swim through clouds instead of water. They taste like rain and dreams." "You are making these things up," Lyra said, but she was smiling. "Maybe a little," Tiho admitted. "But the food really is delicious. And there is a dessert that changes color based on your mood. If you are happy, it turns golden. If you are sad, it turns blue. If you are in love, it turns pink. What if you are scared?" Then it turns invisible and runs away. Lyra laughed so hard that tears came to her eyes. Sorrel felt her throat grow tight. She had not seen her daughter this happy since she was a very small child. Ti-Ho took their orders and went to the kitchen. While he was gone, Lyra could not stop talking. "Mother, he is wonderful," she said. "He is so kind and funny. Why are humans like this?" "I do not know," Sorrel admitted. "Humans are different from us. They feel things more openly. They do not hide their emotions like we do." "I like it," Lyra said. "I like being talked to like I am normal." Those words hit Sorrel harder than any weapon could. Her daughter did not feel normal. Of course she did not. How could she, when she had been hidden away her whole life? Ti-Ho returned with their food, and it was as beautiful as he had described. The nebula soup really did glow. The cloud fish was light and delicate. Lyra tasted everything with wonder, and Ti-Ho watched with satisfaction. As they ate, soft music began to play from the main hall of the restaurant. It was human music, a slow and gentle melody that rose and fell like breathing. Lyra's antennae twitched. "What is that sound?" she asked. "That is a waltz," Ti-Ho explained. "It is a type of human music made for dancing." "Dancing," Lyra repeated. The word sounded strange coming from her mouth. "I have read about dancing. People move their bodies to music." "Yes, exactly." "I have never seen it," Lyra said. "I have never done it." She did not say why, but Ti-Ho understood. He looked at her hovering chair, at her thin legs hidden beneath her dress. He understood completely. For a moment no one spoke. The music continued to play, beautiful and sad. Then Ti-Ho did something that no one expected. He stepped forward and offered his hand to the princess. "Would you like to dance?" he asked. Veth stepped forward immediately. "You cannot touch her, it is forbidden. I will have you killed for this." But Lyra was not looking at Veth. She was looking at Ti-Ho's hand. It was just a human hand, nothing special. But it was offered to her so freely, so simply, without fear or pity. "I cannot dance," Lyra said quietly. "My legs do not work." Ti-Ho did not pull his hand away. "You do not need legs to dance," he said gently. "You just need someone willing to lead." Lyra looked at her mother. Her eyes were asking a question. Sorrel should have said no. She should have ordered the guards to take this foolish human away. She should have protected her daughter from this impossible hope. But she looked at Lyra's face, at the desperate longing in her purple eyes, and she could not refuse. "If you wish it," Sorrel said softly. Lyra reached out and took Ti-Ho's hand. It was warm. Human hands were so warm. Lyra had never touched a human before, and she was surprised by how soft his skin was, how gentle his grip. Ti-Ho did not hesitate. He moved forward and carefully, so carefully, lifted Lyra from her chair. She was light in his arms. He held her close, supporting all her weight, and her feet rested on top of his shoes. "Hold on to me," he said. "I will do the rest." Lyra wrapped her arms around his shoulders. She was trembling. And then they began to move. The music played and Ti-Ho stepped slowly, gently, carrying the princess across the floor. It was not a real dance. It was not graceful or perfect, but it was something Lyra had never experienced before. She was moving, she was floating, she was dancing. Tears began to fall from her eyes, and she did not try to stop them. Empress Sorrel watched from her chair. Her hands gripped the table so hard that her knuckles turned white. Something was breaking inside her. Something old and hard was cracking open. Her daughter was dancing. Her daughter was crying with joy. And a simple human waiter had given her this gift without asking for anything in return. The music filled the empty restaurant like water filling a glass. It was soft and slow, the kind of melody that makes you remember things you thought you had forgotten. And in the middle of the crystal room, surrounded by stars, a human waiter danced with an alien princess. Ti-Ho moved carefully, each step deliberate and gentle. Lyra weighed almost nothing in his arms, or maybe she weighed everything. Her feet rested on his shoes, and he carried her across the floor like she was made of glass. But she was not glass. She was a living, breathing girl who had never known this feeling before. "You are shaking," Tiho said softly. "I am scared," Lyra admitted. "I do not want to fall." "I will not let you fall, I promise." And somehow she believed him. Empress Sorrel sat frozen at the table. She could not move. She could not speak. She could only watch as this impossible scene unfolded before her. Her daughter was dancing. Her daughter, who had never walked a single step, was moving across the floor in the arms of a stranger. High Commander Veth stood by the door, his hand on his weapon. He wanted to stop this. Every tradition, every law, every belief he held told him that this was wrong. A human was touching the princess. A common person was holding royalty in his arms. It was unthinkable. But he did not move. Something in the Empress's face stopped him. The music continued, and Tiho began to speak softly as he danced. "I learned to dance from my sister," he said. "Her name is Hana. She taught me when we were children." "Your sister," Lyra asked, "is she a dancer?" "No, she is a musician. She plays beautiful instruments and creates wonderful songs, but she cannot hear." Lyra looked up at him with confusion. "She cannot hear, but she makes music." "Yes, she was born deaf. She cannot hear sound the way most people do, but she feels music in a different way. She feels it through vibration, through the movement of air, through the beating of her heart." Tiho turned slowly, and Lyra turned with him. Their movement was simple but somehow beautiful. "When I was young, I asked Hana how she could love music when she could not hear it," Tiho continued. "She told me something I never forgot. She said that music is not about hearing, it is about feeling, and dancing is not about moving perfectly. It is about trusting someone enough to let them carry you." Lyra felt those words settle into her heart like seeds falling into soft earth. Trust. That was what she was feeling right now. She was trusting this stranger to hold her, to move her, to keep her safe. "I have never trusted anyone like this," she whispered. "Then I am honored to be the first." They danced in silence for a while. The stars watched through the crystal walls. The music played its gentle song, and for a few precious minutes, Lyra forgot about her broken legs. She forgot about her hidden life. She forgot about the cage she had lived in for 16 years. She was free, she was weightless, she was dancing. When the song finally ended, Tiho slowed to a stop. He held Lyra for a moment longer, and she did not want him to let go. But finally, carefully, he carried her back to her hovering chair and set her down gently. Then he did something unexpected. He stepped back and bowed deeply, not to the Empress but to the princess. "Thank you for the dance, Your Highness," he said. Lyra stared at him. No one had ever thanked her for anything. No one had ever bowed to her. In her hidden world, she was not a princess. She was a secret. She was a problem to be hidden away. But this human treated her like she mattered, like she was worth something. "Thank you," she said, and her voice cracked. "Thank you for showing me what it feels like to be normal." Tiho shook his head. "You are not normal, Your Highness. You are extraordinary. Normal is boring. You are something much better." Fresh tears spilled down Lyra's cheeks. She could not stop them. She did not want to stop them. Empress Sorrel finally stood from her chair. Her legs felt weak, and her heart was beating strangely. She walked toward her daughter and the human waiter, her purple eyes unreadable. Tiho straightened up, suddenly nervous. He had just danced with the daughter of the most powerful woman in 3 galaxies. He had held her in his arms. He had made her cry. He was probably about to die. But Sorrel did not order his death. She did not call for guards. She did not do any of the things he expected. Instead, she looked at her daughter's face. She looked at the tears of joy, the bright eyes, the trembling smile. She looked at everything she had failed to give Lyra for 16 years. And then she looked at Tiho. "Why did you do that?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, confused. Tiho did not understand the question. "She wanted to dance," he said simply, "so we danced." "You do not know who she is. You do not know what she means. You could have ignored her. You could have walked away." "Why would I do that?" Sorrel had no answer. In her world, people always had reasons. They did things for power, for money, for advantage. No one did anything just because it was kind. No one gave gifts without expecting something in return. But this human had given her daughter the greatest gift imaginable, and he wanted nothing. "In my empire," Sorrel said slowly, "what you just did is a crime. Touching royalty without permission is punished by death. Looking at a princess directly is forbidden. Dancing with her is unthinkable." Tiho's face grew pale, but he did not run. He did not beg. He simply nodded. "I understand," he said, "but I am not sorry. If you want to punish me, I accept it. What I did was worth any punishment." Lyra grabbed her mother's arm. "No," she said fiercely. "You cannot hurt him. He did nothing wrong. He made me happy. He made me feel alive. Please, mother, please do not hurt him." Sorrel looked at her daughter and something shifted in her heart. Lyra had never spoken to her like this before. She had never demanded anything. She had never fought for anything. Until now. "I am not going to hurt him," Sorrel said quietly. Lyra's grip relaxed. "Thank you." Sorrel turned back to Tiho. "You are strange," she said. "Humans are strange. I do not understand you." "We do not always understand ourselves," Tiho admitted with a small smile. Despite everything, Sorrel felt the corner of her mouth twitch, almost a smile. She could not remember the last time she had almost smiled. "Tell me more about your sister," she said suddenly. "The one who cannot hear. How does she live? Is she hidden away like my daughter?" Tiho looked surprised by the question. "Hidden? No, your majesty. Hana lives a full life. She has friends. She has a career. She performs her music for thousands of people. She is one of the happiest people I know. But she has a defect, a weakness." "She has a difference," Tiho corrected gently. "Not a weakness. Hana once told me that being deaf taught her to listen in ways that hearing people never could. She pays attention to things others miss. She sees the world differently, and different is not bad. Different is just different." Sorrel was silent for a long moment. She thought about her daughter, hidden away for 16 years. She thought about the laws and traditions that had made her feel so ashamed. She thought about everything she had missed because she was too afraid to let Lyra be seen. "In my empire," she said finally, "different is considered cursed. It is considered shameful. A child with a defect brings dishonor to the family." "With respect, your majesty," Tiho said carefully, "that sounds like a very sad way to live." It was. Sorrel knew it was. But knowing something and changing it were two very different things. The evening ended quietly. Tiho brought them dessert, the one that changed colors. When Lyra took a bite, it turned golden, the color of happiness. She smiled so brightly that it hurt to look at her. When it was time to leave, Lyra did not want to go. She kept looking back at Tiho, this strange human who had changed her life in a single evening. "Will I see you again?" she asked. Tiho smiled. "I hope so, your highness." Sorrel guided her daughter out of the restaurant, Veth and the guards following behind. The night had been impossible, unexpected, and somehow perfect. As they traveled back to the ship, Lyra fell asleep in her hovering chair, a smile still on her face. Sorrel watched her daughter sleep and felt something she had not felt in years. Hoping. Maybe things could be different. Maybe the old ways did not have to rule forever. Maybe her daughter deserved more than a hidden life. Maybe a human waiter had shown her the way. Empress Sorrel could not sleep that night. She lay in her quarters on the royal flagship, staring at the ceiling, watching the soft glow of distant stars through her window. Her mind kept returning to the same image, her daughter dancing, tears streaming down her face, joy radiating from her like light from a sun. A human had done that. A simple waiter with no power, no title, no importance had given Lyra something that all the wealth and might of the Valorian Empire could not provide. Happiness. When morning came, Sorrel made a decision that surprised even herself. She summoned a guard and gave him a message to deliver. Then she waited. An hour later, Park Tiho stood in the receiving room of the royal flagship, looking around with wide eyes. He had never been inside an alien ship before. Everything was smooth and curved, made of materials he did not recognize. The air smelled strange, like flowers from a garden that did not exist on any human world. He was nervous, very nervous. When the Empress's guard had found him at his small apartment near the restaurant, Tiho had been certain he was about to be arrested, or killed, or both. But the guard had simply said that the Empress wished to speak with him. And so here he was, standing in his worn waiter's uniform, waiting for the most powerful woman in the galaxy. The door opened, and Empress Sorrel entered. She wore a long silver gown that flowed behind her like water, and her blue skin seemed to glow in the soft light. She was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Park Tiho," she said, "thank you for coming." Tiho bowed deeply. "Thank you for not killing me, Your Majesty." Sorrel almost smiled, almost. "You are direct, I appreciate that, please sit." She gestured to a chair, and Tiho sat carefully, as if he was afraid the furniture might attack him. Sorrel sat across from him, studying his face. "I have been thinking about you all night," she said. "I am sorry if I caused trouble." "You did cause trouble, but not the kind you think." Sorrel leaned forward. "I need to understand something. Why did you dance with my daughter, the truth? I want the real reason." Tiho thought about the question carefully. "Your Majesty, I am just a waiter. I am not a smart man or a powerful man. I do not have big plans or hidden goals. I saw a young girl who had never danced before, who had never been to a restaurant before, who looked at me like I was the first person to ever really see her. And I thought, how sad, how unfair. Everyone should be able to dance at least once in their life." "So you did it out of pity?" "No," Tiho said firmly. "Not pity. Pity is when you feel sorry for someone but do nothing. This was something else. Compassion, maybe, or just basic kindness. On Earth, we have a saying, treat others the way you want to be treated. If I could not walk and I had never danced, I would want someone to offer me their hand." Sorrel was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "In my empire, physical weakness is seen as a curse, a mark of divine displeasure. A child born with a defect brings shame to the entire bloodline. That is why I have hidden Lyra for all these years." "That is cruel," Tiho said before he could stop himself. He expected anger, he expected punishment, but Sorrel only nodded slowly. "Yes," she agreed, "it is cruel. I have always known that, but I convinced myself that I was protecting her, that hiding her was better than exposing her to the Empire's judgment. I told myself it was for her own good." "Was it?" The question hung in the air like smoke. "No," Sorrel admitted. "It was not. I was protecting myself. I was protecting my throne. I was so afraid of what my enemies would do with the information that I sacrificed my daughter's happiness for my own security." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Her back was straight, her posture perfect, but Tiho could see the weight she carried. It was like a mountain pressing down on her shoulders. "Humans are strange creatures," Sorrel said quietly. "You live such short lives. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. You are soft and fragile and brief, and yet you have spread across the galaxy. You have built things that rival our greatest achievements. How do you do it?" Tiho considered the question. "I think it is because we have to help each other. We are weak alone, so we learn to be strong together. We carry each other. That is what makes us human." "Carry each other," Sorrel repeated, "like you carried my daughter across the dance floor." "Yes, exactly like that." Sorrel turned to face him. Her purple eyes were bright with something that might have been tears, though she did not let them fall. Yesterday, my daughter asked me something she has never asked before. She asked if she could attend the summit. Not hidden, not in secret. She wants to be seen. She wants to exist in front of the galaxy. Tiho felt his heart lift. That is wonderful. That is dangerous, Sorrel corrected. If I present her to the Empire, my enemies will use her condition against me. They will say I am unfit to rule. They will challenge my authority. It could mean war. It could mean my death. It could mean Lyra's death. But it could also mean freedom. Sorrel closed her eyes. Yes, it could also mean freedom. What will you do? I do not know. That is why I called you here. I want to understand how humans think about these things. In your culture, how do you treat people who are different? People who cannot walk or see or hear? Tiho took a deep breath. I will not lie to you, Your Majesty. Humans have not always been good at this. In our history, we have done terrible things to people who were different. We have hidden them, hurt them, treated them as less than human. It took us a long time to learn better. But you did learn. We are still learning. We are not perfect. But today on Earth, my sister can live a full life even though she cannot hear. She has friends, a career, a future. She is not ashamed of who she is. She is proud. And the people around her are proud of her too. Sorrel opened her eyes. How did your world change? One person at a time, Tiho said. One act of kindness at a time. One moment of courage at a time. Change does not happen all at once. It happens in small moments, like a dance in an empty restaurant, like a smile from a stranger. Those words settled into Sorrel's heart. She thought about all the small moments she had missed with her daughter, all the smiles she had not seen, all the dances they had not shared. My daughter is not broken, she said slowly, testing the words. No, Your Majesty, she is not. She is just different. Different is not bad, Tiho said. Different is just different. Sorrel stood straighter. Something was changing inside her. Something old and hard was breaking apart, making room for something new. I am going to do it, she said. I am going to present Lyra to the Empire. I am going to change the laws. I am going to end the shame. Tiho smiled broadly. That is very brave. It is very foolish. It will probably destroy me. Maybe, but at least your daughter will be free. Sometimes that is worth everything. Sorrel looked at this human, this simple waiter who had appeared in her life by accident. He had no power, no influence, no reason to care about an alien empress and her hidden daughter, but he had changed everything. You are a remarkable person, Park Tiho, she said. Tiho shook his head. I am just a waiter. I carry food to tables and drinks to thirsty people. There is nothing remarkable about that. You carry more than food, Sorrel said. You carry hope, and that is the most valuable thing in the universe. She walked him to the door of the receiving room. Before he left, she stopped him. Will you come to the summit tomorrow? She asked. I would like you to be there when I present my daughter to the galaxy. Lyra would want you there too. Tiho bowed. It would be my honor, Your Majesty. As he walked away through the silver corridors, Sorrel watched him go. Then she turned and walked to her daughter's room. Lyra was awake, sitting in her hovering chair by the window, watching the station lights flicker in the darkness. When her mother entered, she looked up with hopeful eyes. Mother, did you speak to him? To Tiho? I did. Is he all right? You did not hurt him. I did not hurt him. In fact, I thanked him. Lyra's eyes went wide. You thanked him. Sorrel crossed the room and knelt beside her daughter's chair. She took Lyra's hands in her own. They were so small, so delicate. Lyra, she said softly, you asked me yesterday if you could attend the summit, if you could be seen. Yes, but I understand if you say no. I know it is too dangerous. I know I am too much trouble. You are not trouble, Sorrel said firmly. You are my daughter. You are the heir to the Valorian throne, and you deserve to be seen by the galaxy." Lyra's breath caught. "Mother, do you mean it?" "I mean it. Tomorrow I will present you to the Empire. I will tell them that you are my daughter and my heir. I will change the laws that have kept you hidden. I will end the shame." Tears streamed down Lyra's face. "But your enemies, they will attack you. They will try to take your throne." "Let them try," Sorrel said. "I have hidden you for 16 years because I was afraid, but I am not afraid anymore. A human waiter taught me that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite fear." Lyra threw her arms around her mother and held on tight. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Sorrel held her daughter close and felt the weight of her crown grow lighter. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, they would face the galaxy together. The Grand Summit Hall was the largest room on Meridian 7. It could hold thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds, and today it was full. Delegates from across the galaxy sat in tiered seats that rose toward a domed ceiling made of living crystal. The crystal changed color based on the mood of the room, and right now it was a deep, nervous blue. Everyone was talking about the same thing. The Valorian Empress had requested a special announcement before the summit began. No one knew what she planned to say, but rumors were spreading like fire. Park Tiho stood in a service corridor near the main stage. He was wearing his waiter uniform because he had nothing else to wear, but someone had pinned a silver badge to his chest that marked him as a guest of the Empress. The guards let him pass without question. He was nervous, more nervous than he had ever been in his life. From his position, he could see the stage where the Empress would speak. He could see the Valorian delegation in the front rows, their faces uncertain. He could see High Commander Veth standing near the entrance, his expression dark. And then the lights dimmed, and the crystal ceiling turned a soft white. Empress Sorrel walked onto the stage. She was magnificent. She wore armor of silver and blue, the ceremonial dress of the Valorian royal house. Her crown was a circle of living light that floated above her head. She moved like a force of nature, unstoppable and unafraid. The hall fell silent. Every eye was on her. "Beings of the galaxy," Sorrel said, her voice amplified so that everyone could hear. "I come before you today to share a truth that I have hidden for too long. I have ruled for 30 years. I have led my empire through wars and peace, through darkness and light. I have tried to be strong for my people, but strength without honesty is just another form of weakness." The delegates shifted in their seats. They could feel that something important was about to happen. 16 years ago, Sorrel continued, I gave birth to a daughter. Her name is Lyra. She was born with a condition that affects her legs. She cannot walk. She cannot stand. According to the ancient laws of my empire, this makes her cursed, unfit, a shame to the royal bloodline. Gasps echoed through the hall. The Valorian delegates looked shocked. Some looked angry. "Because of these laws," Sorrel said, "I hid my daughter. I kept her secret from the galaxy. I convinced myself that I was protecting her, but I was wrong. I was not protecting her. I was imprisoning her. I was stealing her life." She paused and took a breath. The crystal ceiling flickered between colors, uncertain. "Today, that ends. Today, I am going to do something that should have happened years ago." She turned and gestured toward the side of the stage. And Princess Lyra appeared. She floated in her hovering chair, wearing a gown of white and silver that sparkled like stars. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow. Her purple eyes were fixed straight ahead, filled with determination. She was beautiful, she was terrified, she was free. The hall erupted in whispers. Some delegates stared with curiosity, others with disgust. The Valorian delegation looked like they had seen a ghost. Lyra guided her chair to her mother's side and stopped. For a moment, mother and daughter stood together, facing the galaxy. "This is my daughter," Sorrel announced. "Princess Lyra, heir to the Valorian throne. She is not cursed, she is not shameful, she is different. and different is not bad. High Commander Veth stepped forward. His face was twisted with anger. "This is madness," he declared loudly. "The ancient laws are clear. A defective heir cannot inherit the throne. The Empress has violated sacred tradition. She must be removed from power." Several Valorian delegates stood up in agreement. The hall rumbled with tension. The crystal ceiling turned a angry red. Sorrel raised her hand for silence. "The ancient laws," she said calmly, "were written thousands of years ago by people who did not understand difference. They feared what they could not explain. They called weakness what was simply variation. They were wrong, and I am changing those laws today." "You cannot do that," Veth shouted. "The Empress does not have that power." "I am the Empress. I have exactly that power." She turned to face the full assembly, her voice rising. "Physical difference is not a curse. It is not a punishment from the gods. It is simply part of the natural variation of life. Some beings are tall, some are short. Some can walk, some cannot. This does not make anyone less worthy of respect, love, or power." She looked at her daughter, and her voice softened. 2 days ago, I watched a human waiter dance with my daughter. He lifted her in his arms and carried her across a restaurant floor, and for the first time in her life, Lyra knew what it felt like to be free. He did not see her disability. He saw her, just her. And he treated her like she deserved to be treated, with kindness, with respect, with joy. She turned back to the assembly. "That human taught me something that all my years of ruling never taught me. He taught me that strength is not the absence of weakness. It is the courage to be seen despite your fears. It is the willingness to carry someone when they cannot walk alone. It is the choice to be kind when cruelty would be easier." Tiho felt tears streaming down his face. He did not try to stop them. "Today, I abolish the ancient laws of physical purity," Sorrel declared. "From this moment forward, physical difference will not be a source of shame in the Valorian Empire. It will be celebrated as part of our diversity. And my daughter, Princess Lyra, will be recognized as the rightful heir to my throne." The hall was silent. The crystal ceiling had turned a mixture of colors, reflecting the complex emotions of the assembly. Then something unexpected happened. A delegate from a small system stood up. She was old, with wrinkled gray skin and tired eyes. She began to clap. Another delegate joined her, then another, then another. The applause spread through the hall like a wave. Beings from dozens of worlds stood up and cheered. The crystal ceiling exploded into brilliant gold. Not everyone clapped. Veth and some of the Valorian traditionalists remained silent, their faces hard, but they were outnumbered. The galaxy was changing, whether they liked it or not. Lyra looked at her mother, tears in her eyes. Sorrel smiled at her, a real smile, the first in years. After the announcement, Tiho tried to slip away. He did not belong here among emperors and princesses and the fate of worlds. He was just a waiter. He served food and cleared tables. He was nobody. But before he could reach the exit, he felt a hand on his arm. He turned and found Princess Lyra floating beside him in her hovering chair. She was smiling through her tears. "Where are you going?" she asked. "I thought you might want some privacy," Tiho said. "This is your moment. You do not need me." "You are wrong," Lyra said firmly. "This is your moment too. None of this would have happened without you. I just danced with you, that is all." Lyra shook her head. "You did more than that. You saw me. For the first time in my life, someone looked at me and did not see a broken thing. You saw a person. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how valuable?" Tiho did not know what to say, so he said the only thing he could. "You are not broken, Your Highness. You never were." Lyra reached out and took his hand. "Thank you, Park Tiho. Thank you for giving me my life." Empress Sorrel approached them. She looked tired but happy. The weight of her crown seemed lighter than before. "Park Tiho," she said, "I owe you a debt that I can never repay. You changed my daughter's life. You changed my empire, you changed me. Ti-Ho bowed. I am honored, your majesty, but I did not do anything special. I just treated your daughter the way everyone should be treated. And that, Sorrel said, is exactly what makes it special. She paused, considering. The Valorian Empire will need bridges to the human worlds. We will need people who understand both cultures, who can help us learn from each other. Would you consider serving as an advisor to the throne? You would be well paid, well housed, and you would never have to carry another tray of food again. Ti-Ho thought about it. He thought about his small apartment, his simple life, his sister Hana waiting for him back on Earth. Then he thought about the princess who had never danced before. He thought about the Empress who had hidden her heart behind a crown. He thought about all the ways that kindness could change the universe. I would be honored, he said, but I have one condition. Sorrel raised an eyebrow. Name it. I want to teach your people to dance, all of them, even the ones who think they cannot. Lyra laughed, bright and clear like ringing bells. Deal, Sorrel said. Years passed. Empress Sorrel ruled wisely, and when she finally retired, Empress Lyra took the throne. She was a good ruler, fair and kind. She opened schools for children with disabilities. She changed laws that had caused suffering for centuries. She proved that a leader did not need to walk to lead. And on the planet Veloria, in the capital city, there stood a cultural center where beings from every world came to learn and share and connect. At the entrance of that center stood a statue made of silver and crystal. It showed a human man and a Valorian girl, frozen in mid-dance. He held her carefully, supporting her weight, and she rested in his arms like she belonged there. The plaque at the base of the statue had words in 100 languages, but they all said the same thing. We rise by lifting others. People from across the galaxy came to see that statue. They touched it for luck. They took pictures beside it. They told their children the story of the waiter who danced with a princess and changed the universe. And somewhere in the crowd, an old human man watched with a smile on his face. His hair was gray now and his bones were tired, but his heart was full. Park Ti-Ho had never wanted to be a hero. He had never wanted fame or glory or power. He had just wanted to be kind. And somehow that had been enough. Princess Lyra found him in the crowd. She was not young anymore either, but her smile was exactly the same as it had been that night in the restaurant, when a waiter had offered her his hand and asked her to dance. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "I am thinking about how strange life is," Ti-Ho said. "I was just a waiter. I am still just a waiter in my heart, but here I am watching a statue of myself." Lyra took his hand, just as she had taken it so many years ago. "You were never just a waiter," she said. "You were the man who taught an empire that kindness is stronger than tradition, that compassion is more powerful than fear, that different is beautiful." Ti-Ho squeezed her hand gently. "Your Majesty," he said, "would you like to dance?" Empress Lyra laughed, the same bright laugh from that first night. "Always," she said. And they did.